Traverse+System+Strategy+Independent Story+Ancient and Modern Crossover, Chu Qianxi, who was unexpectedly bound to the system, was tasked in different planes just to achieve points and wake up from the hospital bed. Let's see how she managed to capture the strategic targets and complete the tasks one by one in different scenarios. Chapter 1. Binding System. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After a car accident, Chu Qianxi, who was unconscious in the hospital bed, accidentally became bound to a system. After binding, the system told her that as long as she accumulated 1,000 points by completing tasks, she could be given a chance to be reborn. She thought of taking advantage and not wasting it, so she immediately bound the system and traveled through various levels to complete tasks. As a time-traveling novice, she asked the system, this system. In the novels and TV dramas I usually watch, I see that this type of time traveling has some golden fingers, special abilities, or mind-reading skills. Do I have a time-traveling cheat like this? A snow-white, round-headed, and round-headed system said to her cutely, I'm sorry, employer. As I am also a newly developed system, these features are not yet available. However, I believe that employers can accumulate enough points with their own intelligence as soon as possible, so I will go ahead and evolve first. Keep going. Hello, are you leaving now? What should I do next? Chu Qianxi, who was in doubt, was sucked away by a powerful force. As soon as she opened her eyes, she found herself lying on a magnificent bed. As soon as she sat up, a wealthy lady walked in, dressed in ancient costume from a TV drama, with a worried expression on her face. She walked towards Chu Qianxi and said, Oh my Yuner, you finally woke up, but you worried so much about Wei Nyang. What's good about Chu Sungwen? He's just a poor scholar from a county head's family. Even if you like him so much, you can't even give up your life for him, can you? Looking at the woman in front of her who claimed to be her own mother, Chu Qianxi immediately asked the system in her mind, System, help me quickly. I want to know the identity of this original owner and my mission. After speaking, a floating text came to her mind. The original owner was Lin Muyun, the daughter of Prime Minister Lin. In the previous life, she was tempted by Chu Sungwen to help him rise to power and defeat Crown Prince Mo Junhan. However, after ascending to power, he did not become a good king. He ate, drank, and played all day and eventually became a tyrant. This position collapsed. Your task is to approach Mo Junhan at all costs to help him clear obstacles and help him rise to power. Then the system sent her the original owner's memory and it disappeared. After digesting the information, Chu Qianxi immediately entered the role of Lin Muyun. Mom, you're worried about me. After narrowly escaping from this drowning, I realized that I don't want to like Chu Sungwen anymore. The legitimate daughter of my esteemed Prime Minister's mansion deserves a better husband. Upon hearing this, Mu Huaya, who came up to sit by his daughter Lin Muyun's bed, raised her hand and caressed her head, saying, Yun, you can feel at ease with your mother if you think so. But no matter what decision you make, as long as it doesn't harm yourself, I will support you as a mother. After hearing this, Lin Muyun was moved and crawled into Mu Huaya's arms, coquettishly saying to her, Mom, you're so kind. I want to eat the lotus soup you made. After hearing this, Mu Huaya asked her to lie down for a while and then went to make lotus soup for her. 2 weeks later, one day, Lin Muyun, who had promised Mu Huaya that she would only go out to relax and not look for Chu Sungwen again, was finally allowed to go out with her personal maid Chu Qianxi. She thought to herself, of course not looking for Chu Sungwen again. Her goal today is Mo Junhan. According to the information provided by the system, today Mo Junhan went to Xiangshan to rescue his trapped fifth brother Mo Xuanyi because he received a fake message from Wu Wenning arranged by Chu Sungwen beside him. Due to Mo Xuanyi's frequent outings and absence for several months, when she heard Wu Wenning, who was studying in the same school, say that she had been told that the fifth prince had been killed in Xiangshan and he had taken several guards with him without seeking evidence, he was secretly injured in the shoulder by Chu Songwen's ambush, and the poison on his shoulder has been tormenting him ever since. Lin Muyun, who had left the door, walked towards Xiangshan, thinking of reaching the entrance of Xiangshan to stop Mo Junhan before he arrived. Thinking of her, she quickened her steps. Zhu Xin, who was closely following her, quickly asked her, "Miss, where are we going in such a hurry? Do you want me to go back to the Prime Minister's mansion and ask someone to help?" Lin Muyun quickly waved her hands and said, "No, no, I heard that there is a new bean curd jelly served with sauce at the entrance of Xiangshan. It's very delicious. I'm afraid I can't get it if I go late." Zhu Xin, who was following behind, scratched her head with her hand and said, "Ah. Oh. If Miss wants to eat, Zhu Xin can go there early next time to buy it for Mississippi." Lin Muyun responded well and took her to Xiangshan. Chapter 2. Preventing Entry into Xiangshan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing that her fifth brother had an accident, Mo Jun hurriedly rode a few guards to the entrance of Xiangshan. As she was about to ride from Shiqiao to the area of Xiangshan, she was stopped by a girl dressed as a young lady. He quickly pulled back the reins in his hand to stop the horse, and looked at the girl blocking his horse. He spoke out, "Miss ahead, please make way. I have something important to attend to and I hope you understand." Lin Muyun, who was standing in front of her with both hands open, didn't make any movement after hearing what he said. Mu Feng, who was riding a horse behind Mo Junhan, looked at Lin Muyun, who was still not giving way, and shouted at her, "The female bandit from there is blocking the way. My young master has something important to attend to, so hurry up and move away." "Oh. Bandits, have you ever seen such a beautiful bandit?" Lin Muyun pointed at herself. Behind Lin Muyun, with her half-eaten bean curd jelly served with sauce in her hand, Chu Qianxi covers her face with an empty hand and whispers, my lady, my lady." Recently, she has gradually become accustomed to some of her strange behaviors. Chu Qianxi hurries up to Lin Muyun and carefully pulls a corner of her sleeve and shakes it to her, saying, Lady, they said we better not stand in their way when something important is going on. It's not good. Let's go to eat bean curd jelly served with sauce." Lin Muyun looked at Zhu Xin with a pleading expression on her face and pushed her hand back to her, saying, "Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. You can sit over there and wait for me. I'll handle it right away." After speaking, she looked up at Mo Junhan and asked, "Excuse me, you are the third young master of the Mo family. Do you want to go and save your fifth brother?" Mo Junhan narrowed his eyes and looked at her warily when he heard what she was saying. "That's right. I came here for this matter, and the girl knows why she's blocking my way." Lin Muyun pretended to be calm and deceived him, saying, "I am your fifth brother's good friend. Yesterday, he heard that someone was spreading false news about his danger in Xiangshan. He wrote a letter to me asking my friend who is close to Xiangshan to help him stop his family and friends who may have been involved in a scam here." Mo Junhan frowned and stared at her with a skeptical expression, while Mu Feng beside him spoke to Lin Muyun and asked, "How can we believe that you didn't delay our time here to stop us from going to rescue?" Lin Muyun didn't answer Mu Feng's words, but looked at Mo Junhan and said, "It's none of my business then. Believe it or not, my words have also arrived. If you insist on going, I have no right to interfere." Then she went to the bean curd jelly served with sauce stall beside. Riding on the horse, Mo Junhan lowered his head and smiled, then dismounted and handed the horse rope to Mu Feng, who also followed him dismounting. He then stepped forward and sat opposite Lin Muyun. Mo Junhan smiled and said to Lin Muyun, "Miss, this move has no right to interfere. It's really admirable. Do you have any plan to give those ambushed villains a yellow sparrow and catch them all in one fell swoop?" Lin Muyun on the opposite side stopped to deliver bean curd jelly served with sauce to her mouth, looked at Mo Junhan on the opposite side and said, "I do have a good anti-annihilation plan, but..." She touched all her fingertips together and rubbed them with her thumb and the other 4 fingers. Watching her movements, Mo Junhan smiled and took out a bulging purse from his waist, handing it to her, saying, looking at the girl's good outfit, I didn't expect she was still a small money addict. Lin Muyun pouted and said to him, who says wealthy people can't be obsessed with wealth? It's because of financial obsession that people have money, okay? Mo Jun smiled and ordered a portion of bean curd jelly served with sauce to eat across from her. After hearing what she said, he got up and motioned to move phone behind him to say something in his ear, and then he took the two people away. At this moment, Lin Muyun, who had completed the task, stood up and prepared to go home. Mo Junhan, who was beside her, spoke to her and asked, Thank you very much for your reminder and help today. I saw that I had some affinity with you and dared to ask for your name and residence. Upon hearing this, Lin Muyun thought that if she got to know him well, it would be convenient for her to handle things in the future. So she bowed to Mo Junhan as a lady and said to him, Mo Gongzi, you don't need to be polite. It's my good fortune to have helped you. My daughter is Lin Muyun, the daughter of Prime Minister Lin. It has been half a day since I came out today, and I should go home. We have a chance to see each other again. Mo Junhan smiled as he watched her leave after half bowing and got on his horse. Chapter 3. Meeting Good Friends. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Above a road in Xiangshan, Chu Sungwen and his row of archers, hiding behind the trees, waited until dusk without seeing the shadow of Mo Junhan. At this moment, Chu Sungwen got up irritably and said, All withdraw. It seems that he didn't fall for the trick today. When all the archers left Chu Sungwen, he clenched his fists hanging on his legs with a fierce expression and said, Mo Junhan, you're lucky this time. You won't be able to escape so easily next time. Lin Muyun, who had eaten and was lying in bed, was resting when she heard the system in her mind say, Congratulations to the host for successfully preventing the attack target from being killed. The host has earned 10 points. Lin Muyun was originally very happy that she had completed a task, but when she heard that her score was only 10 points, she immediately pouted and said to the system, I've been working hard for half a day to prevent Mo Junhan from going to Xiangshan, so he only got 10 points. The system. You can give me more points by walking through the back door. It's so pitiful that I, a little girl, came to a foreign land. Just. Please give me more points. The system smiled and said to her, the host's requirements are not yet understood by the system. I will evolve and evolve again. After that, it disappeared. Lin Muyun, who shouted a few times but didn't receive a response, sighed and lay in bed thinking, okay, I'll just earn points honestly. After completing the first small goal, Lin Muyun stayed at home to eat, drink, and sleep. In ancient times, without electronic devices, she couldn't find any fun except sleeping. On that day, as she lay idle in bed resting, she heard the system in her mind say, Ding, it was detected that the Sakura Island conference would be held in 3 days. Please prepare yourself, host. Upon hearing what it said, Lin Muyun immediately searched her mind for the Sakura Island Convention, a custom held annually here. The affiliated countries next to Jishur would send people to attend, and Chu Sungwen calculated for Mo Junhan at the conference and brought him to a room where Wu Wenning, who was not well dressed, lay on the bed. Afterwards, he was discovered by the emperor. Not only did he always have a positive impression of him, but the emperor misunderstood his beauty and believed that he had made a fool of himself at such an important conference, which disappointed him. In addition, he was forced to marry Wu Wenning under the accusations of the Wu family. As a result, he also began to leave the candidates for the throne. Thinking about these things, Lin Muyun got out of bed, changed her clothes, and took Xushin to a place that specializes in selling weapons and poison antidotes. After selecting a few bottles of cartilage powder and anti-sweat medicine as antidotes, she saw a small and exquisite short knife on a shop in front of her. She looked at the knife and wanted to go up and ask the boss for the price. At this moment, a handsome and casual-looking young man took the short knife in her hand first. After realizing it, she looked at the short knife that had been taken away with heartache and thought, oh my, I should have taken a step faster just now. This short and delicate knife is easy to hide on my body, and the key is really beautiful. She remorsefully slapped her thighs twice and murmured, I told you to be slow, I told you to be slow, even good things have been lost. She looked at the young man in front of her and saw that he had not yet wanted to buy it. She approached him and said, This young man, you look like a very skilled martial arts person. This short sword is small and short, and it cannot show your bravery at all. You should go over there and take a look. There are a few decent long curved swords that are very suitable for you. She then raised her hand and pointed to a stall across from her. Mo Xuanyi looked at the mischievous young girl in front of her and said to her, Oh my! It's still my good friend who understands me. Just now, I was thinking of buying 2 long curved knives when I leave. But this short knife looks pretty good too. Lin Muyun said to him in confusion, Good friend. The young master has mistaken someone. Well, I'm willing to pay twice the price to buy this short knife in the young master's hand. Can the young master give it to me? Mo Xuanyi smiled and joked with her, Yesterday I heard my third brother say that my good friend helped me, but today Miss Lin doesn't recognize me as a good friend anymore. Unfortunately, I just said I bought this short knife and gave it to my good friend to thank her for helping me yesterday. It seems that I can't give this knife away, so I'll keep it for myself. Are you Mo Xuanyi? Lin Muyun asked her in a curious tone. Mo Xuanyi nodded and replied, That's right, it's me. After hearing this, Lin Muyun laughed as if she didn't want any money and said to him, Ah. It turned out to be Mr. Mo Wu. Yesterday's busyness was not a big deal. If the young master insists on giving a knife to your good friend, it's also possible. I'm willing to do it, he. Mo Xuanyi looked at her straightforward speech and smiled as he replied, Thank you very much for Miss Lin's help yesterday. I'll give you this knife. How did Miss Lin know that someone sent false news to my brother yesterday? Lin Muyun looked calm and deceived him, saying, I only found out when I was eating at a restaurant and heard a conversation at the next table. Thank you for the young master's knife. If I have something else to do, I'll leave first. Please take your time to stroll around. Lin Muyun took a knife and walked home with the bamboo heart behind her. She thought to herself, if I had known earlier, I wouldn't have said I was Mo Xuanyi's good friend. A lie needs to be solved with thousands of lies. Next time, let's not deceive anyone. I almost couldn't make it up just now. Watching Lin Muyun flee in despair, Mo Xuanyi smiled and thought, You're really an interesting girl. Chapter 4 Sakura Island Convention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days later at the Sakura Festival, Lin Muyun, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, obediently followed Prime Minister Lin and his wife to the reception banquet. Lin Muyun, who had just sat down, felt a few gazes looking at her in her spare light. She looked up one by one and saw Mo Junhan sitting in the seat and Mo Xuanyi leaning across from her, both nodding and greeting her with smiles on their faces. And Chu Sungwen, who was below her, looked at her with fake and affectionate eyes that could no longer be fake. She restrained herself from showing a disdainful expression and immediately turned around to see Wu Wenning staring fiercely at her from the opposite side. Seeing Lin Muyun turn around, Wu Wenning immediately changed her smiling expression to greet her. Lin Muyun, who saw her series of operations, pretended not to see her changing expression and instead smiled back at her with a smile that made everyone happy. Thinking to myself, pretending to be with my mother here, I can still have green tea better than you. After sitting for a while, everyone arrived when a father-in-law in front shouted loudly, The emperor is here, the empress is here. After hearing this, everyone stood up, and the emperor and empress were both dressed in splendid ceremonial attire. When they arrived at the main seat and heard everyone greet them, the emperor said, Sit down. Today, we gather here not to talk about national affairs or monarchs and ministers. Guests who have come from afar must eat and play well today. Let's all start celebrating the Sakura festival together happily. After the emperor finished speaking, a singer came up to dance, and at this moment, a peaceful and cheerful atmosphere emanated from the banquet. A delicious dish was brought up one after another, and Lin Muyun looked at the food in front of her and swallowed a few mouthfuls before picking up the nearby fruit to eat. She thought to herself, I won't be fooled. There are problems with the dishes and wine on this table. Eating them will really ruin me. At this time in her previous life, she was drugged and was pushed down by a maid arranged by Chu Sungwen outside the pond. After she fell into the water, Chu Sungwen rushed to save her. Lin Muyun, who was rescued, completely fell in love with Chu Sungwen. What a clever act of killing two birds with one arrow. Not only did he let his biggest obstacle, Mo Junhan, be harmed, but he also received the powerful support of Lin Muyun. It has to be said that Chu Songwen's abacus is really skillful. When everyone had eaten enough, Wu Wenning, who was opposite her, left her seat. After a while, the medicinal effect of Mo Junhan, who was sitting in the seat, was also about to improve. Lin Muyun watched as he weakly supported himself and told the emperor that he was not feeling well to go to the back room to rest. Watching both of them leave, she is also about to take action. She told Mu Huaya to go out for some air and then left her seat. As soon as I walked to the door, I saw a maid walking towards me. She quickly pretended to be dizzy and supported the door. The maid came up and helped Lin Muyun up. She spoke up and said, Miss Lin, are you okay? Lin Muyun leaned against her body and said, It's okay. I think I've been drinking too much and now I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Can you accompany me around? As Lin Muyun took the initiative to invite her, the maid led her towards the pond. After walking for a while, Lin Muyun suddenly stopped and said to the maid, Oh my, I forgot my pendant on the table where I was eating just now. Go and help me get it, I'm waiting for you here. Upon hearing Lin Muyun's urgent instructions, she hesitated whether to go or not, and then heard Lin Muyun say, Hurry up and go. I'm fine, I'll wait for you here obediently. You go and come back quickly. Thinking that it would be okay in just a while, the maid returned. Looking at the maid Lin Muyun walking away, she smiled mischievously and said, You're still trying to trick me, there's no door. She immediately set off for another room, searched around there, and finally saw Mo Junhan supported by a father-in-law in a hallway. She approached them and said, Ah. Isn't this the crown prince's brother? What's going on? The father-in-law, who was supporting Mo Junhan, didn't expect anyone to come. He panicked and said to Lin Muyun, Ah. Hello, young lady. The crown prince just drank too much, and I was just about to help him rest. Lin Muyun pretended to be surprised and said to him, Oh my, the crown prince must be feeling unwell after drinking too much. Let me support him and you can go get him a bowl of sobering tea soup. After hearing this, the father-in-law cunningly said to her, Let me do it. If someone sees a young lady who is not compatible, they will gossip. After I send the crown prince to the wing room to rest, I will go to the kitchen to get sobering tea. Looking at her unfaithful father-in-law, she sprinkled medicine powder on his face, and the father-in-law immediately fell back. Lin Muyun quickly came forward and grabbed Mo Junhan, saying to the father-in-law on the ground, Let's chat for a while longer, and Chu Sungwen and the maid will come over. She helped the unconscious Mo Junhan take out a bottle of antidote from her own sewn backpack, took out a pill, and stuffed it into his mouth. Suddenly, her hand was held by Mo Junhan. You're not unconscious. Mo Junhan stood up straight with a smile and said to her, I'm not an alcoholic who pours 2 glasses at once. Also, last time I was almost counted, and this time I won't be vigilant anymore. Lin Muyun thought with a dry expression on her face. That's it. I didn't expect it. She pointed to her father-in-law on the ground and said to him, What should I do with this? Mo Junhan looked calculating and said to her, We'll send him wherever he wants to take me. Lin Muyun smiled and gave him a thumbs up, saying, that's bad enough. Chapter 5. Banquets. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lin Muyun took out a sleeping pill from the hanging bag around her waist and stuffed it into her father-in-law's mouth on the ground. Then the two of them took him to the room where Wu Wenning was located. On the way back to the banquet, Mo Junhan curiously asked her, "How did you know that I would be drugged?" Lin Muyun candidly said, "Just now at the banquet, I saw you with a strong expression on your face and thought you had been tricked by them, so I came to find you. I really thought you were deceived just now. I didn't expect you to care about me." Mo Junhan joked with a smile. After hearing this, Lin Muyun quickly waved her hands and said, "I don't call it caring, okay? I'm acting bravely." The two of them then returned to their seats at the banquet and continued to act as if they didn't know anything. As the banquet was nearing its end, Chu Sungwen outside saw that Lin Muyun had not been pushed into the pond by the maid he had arranged. He realized that things might have changed, so he quickly went to find the person who had been arranged for the banquet to wait until it was almost time to call out for an accident in the wing room. He hurriedly rushed to the banquet, seemingly not even seeing that person. Lin Muyun, who was sitting at the banquet, looked at him anxiously and secretly chuckled and thought, "The person you're looking for was already taken away by me. It's strange if you can find it." At this moment, someone came in from outside the door and told the Emperor and Empress that there was an accident in the back room. After hearing this, the Empress calmly stood up and told the Emperor to go and take a look in the back room. After obtaining the Emperor's consent, the Empress followed several maids to the room where the accident occurred. After the maid pushed open the door, she saw a man and a woman lying naked on the bed inside. She immediately turned around to let the maid see which family it belonged to. After the maid went forward to confirm, she told the Empress that she was the daughter of the Wu family and a father-in-law from the Shanyi Bureau. After hearing this, the queen asked the maid to call the people of the Wu family over. When Wu Wenning's father, Wu Biao, and her mother, Chen Lu, saw her daughter lying with a father-in-law, they were so angry that Wu Biao slapped Chen Lu on the spot and said, "This is the daughter you taught. It's embarrassing to have thrown her into the palace. Bring her back to me quickly and see how I can pick you up when I go back." After that, he bent down and arched his hand at the Empress, saying, "I have no way to make the Empress laugh. I will take them back to education and education. Could you please come this way?" After hearing this, the Empress said with a kind expression, "It's okay. This is Wu Chen's family matter, and I won't be able to intervene. You can decide everything yourself, but don't bring her to such an important banquet next time." After hearing this, Wu Biao quickly said, "Thank you very much for your kindness, Empress Dowager. I will abide by your teachings." After the banquet, Chu Sungwen stayed in his study and angrily smashed everything on the desk to the ground, gritting his teeth and saying, "Mo Junhan, you are really amazing. You have escaped my plans several times. You forced me to be tough, this time you are either dead or alive." He smiled inwardly, as if he was about to eat Mo Junhan. Wu Wenning, who was taken home, was thrown underground in the firewood room by Wu Biao's command. Wu Biao, with a grudge against her, threw a bucket of water at her. Wu Wenning, who was lying on the ground, was awakened by a bucket of water. She saw herself soaked and looked at Wu Biao standing there. Although she was not sure what had happened yet, she looked innocent and said to Wu Biao, "Dad, what are you doing? My daughter is a bit cold." After hearing this, Wu Biao stepped forward and slapped her angrily, saying, "What did I do? Don't you know what good you did at the banquet? I wanted you to climb up to a good family and bring me benefits, but you ended up hooking up with the eunuch and making a fool of myself in front of the queen. It seems that you have no value at all. You should go to the brothel and at least buy some money." After hearing this, Wu Wenning was afraid and climbed onto Wu Biao's hand, saying, "Father, I didn't do it. I didn't collude with the eunuch. I'm with the crown prince, you have to believe me. My daughter doesn't want to go to the brothel, and my father doesn't want me to go to the brothel." Wu Biao shook off her hand and said, "I can't help it. You and your unruly mother should leave the Wu mansion with me. Don't come back in the future. Wu Wenning, crying sadly, was driven out of the Wu mansion with Chen Lu and sent to the brothel by servants. Chapter 6. Completing the first task. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Lu and Wu Wenning, who were sold into the Mingfeng Tower, were locked in a firewood room by the madam, and occasionally servants came to beat them with whips. 3 days later, the two who couldn't hold on told the madam that they were willing to listen to her before being released. The madam said that Chen Lu was too old and was arranged to do laundry. Wu Wenning, who had a pretty appearance, asked her to follow and learn how to pick up guests. On this day, Wu Wenning, who was forced to serve the first guest, watched as the strict madam next to her trembled as she pushed open the door in front of her. She walked in, feeling aggrieved and unwilling. When she saw the door closed by the madam from outside, she slowly entered and saw Chu Sungwen sitting inside. As soon as she saw him, Wu Wenning couldn't help but shed tears. She then heard Chu Sungwen say, "We have all been calculated, and this seamless plan was actually exposed by both of them. It seems that I must come hard. Do you want to compete with me or stay here?" Wu Wenning tightened the handkerchief in her hand and said, "I have nothing left. Instead of being humiliated here, it's better to fight to the death." Chu Sungwen laughed heartily and said to her, "You are truly someone I value. I have told the madam that you will not be picking up guests in this room for the next 2 days. Your goal this time is still Mo Junhan. I will have someone come to pick you up at that time, and you will wait here for my news before taking action." Wu Wenning took a deep breath and answered, "Okay." A week later, the emperor who went to Mizhan Temple to visit the Empress Dowager was surrounded on the way. Today, he was dressed in casual clothes and did not reveal any rumors. He went with very few people. At this moment, he looked around and was furious, thinking that he wanted to see whose paw had reached out to him. The news of the emperor being trapped was that someone had fired an arrow at the crown prince's mansion. Upon seeing the news, the crown prince immediately rushed over with his people. At the same time, Lin Muyun also received a notification from the system that there was some activity on the crown prince's side. After clarifying the system, she secretly went to the address provided by the system without telling Mu Huaya and Zhu Xian. The emperor, due to the small number of people he brought and the fact that the other party was well prepared, quickly ran out of his own people. When he was about to hold on, Mo Junhan brought people with him. After watching his son come to save him, the emperor calmed down a bit and quickly joined forces with him. Watching the crown prince and emperor come together, Chu Sungwen walked out of the nearby house. He respectfully bowed to both of them and said, "Your Majesty, how good the crown prince is. I didn't expect him to be surrounded here so suddenly, right?" The emperor angrily shook his sleeve and said to him, "If I remember correctly, you should be called Chu Sungwen. With your courage and power, I'm afraid there may be someone behind today's situation to support you." Chu Sungwen smiled and patted his palm, saying to him, "You are truly the ruler of a country." "That's right, I'm just here to kill you. As for the people behind me, of course, they will go and control the palace. As soon as you die, I can go directly to the palace to become the emperor." "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that you, the fragile scholar in your mouth, will one day kill you and take your place," the emperor replied with disdain. You are really fascinated by power and interests. The person behind you is the imperial concubine. Do you think my secret guards and eyeliner are all for nothing in the imperial palace? You'd better keep your little cleverness in the death row." After speaking, a large number of imperial guards surrounded and captured Chu Sungwen and his group of traitors. Chu Sungwen, who was being escorted, stared fiercely at the emperor and the crown prince and said to them, "Dog emperor, dog crown prince, I wish you both a good death." Before he could finish speaking, Mu Feng covered his mouth and asked the imperial guards to take them down. The emperor shook his head helplessly and said, "Do you think being in the imperial family is a very happy thing?" After finishing speaking, he said to Mo Junhan, "Honor, it's a great pleasure for you to come to the throne, but as you can see, being an emperor not only requires enjoying the respect of thousands of people, but also constantly being wary of any unscrupulous intentions. Mo Junhan solemnly replied, I will always remember what my father said about children. Just as they were talking, a dense array of arrows shot towards them. Mo Junhan immediately drew the long sword of a nearby guard and swung it in front of the emperor to resist. Not many people, including the emperor and Mo Junhan, were left behind. As the arrows were being shot back step by step, the emperor immediately said to the few people beside him, take one person and shout out to the imperial guards who haven't gone far. The rest are covering him. After speaking, Mu Feng, who was standing next to Mo Junhan, ran towards the direction of the imperial army. Mo Junhan and the emperor held their swords and covered for him. At this moment, an arrow suddenly hit the emperor's shoulder. Mo Junhan took a step forward and blocked him. When Mu Feng, who was running to call for someone, successfully chased after him, the rest of the people tried their best to protect the injured emperor. With the continuous projection of arrows, Mo Junhan and the people around the emperor fell one by one. In the end, when they were still left, the arrow also stopped shooting. Wu Wenning walked towards them with an archer, and Mo Junhan immediately sneered when he saw that the person coming was Wu Wenning, saying, it seems I underestimated you. Wu Wenning didn't want to say anything more and let the archer next to her shoot at Mo Junhan. This time, she made a fatal move by smearing poison on her bow and arrow. At the critical moment, Lin Muyun appeared and blocked in front of Mo Junhan. An arrow pierced through her heart, and Lin Muyun fell backwards in response. Watching Lin Muyun and Mo Junhan catch her while blocking the arrow for themselves. At this moment, Mu Feng and the imperial guards rushed up and killed Wu Wenning on the spot, along with all the archers who were nearby and hiding. The emperor was carried back to the palace on a stretcher for treatment. Looking at Lin Muyun lying in her arms, Mo Junhan's eyes turned red and he asked her, we are two strangers. You shouldn't have saved my life several times by holding on to the legitimate daughter of the prime minister. Why did you block this poisonous arrow for me this time? Lin Muyun endured the pain in her heart and said to him, Your Highness, I know you have great ambitions and don't want to be confined to the palace. The position of crown prince is also something that your Empress Dowager has worked hard to win for you, but I believe you are also a good choice for a monarch. I hope you can persist in your kindness and intelligence and work hard to make this country better under your leadership in the future. Also, I have an invitation and hope you can agree to me. Mo Junhan looked at her in pain and said, You tell me, as long as I can do it, I will help you achieve it. Lin Muyun took a breath and said to him, Mo Junhan, after you become the monarch, I hope you can treat my family well so that they can all enjoy their old age without worries about food and clothing. Mo Junhan couldn't help but cry and said to her, Okay, I will definitely do it. After hearing his answer, Lin Muyun saw that everything in front of her had stopped, and the arrow and blood in her heart had disappeared. At this moment, a line of words appeared in front of her. After completing the task successfully, the host gains 200 points. Do you choose to enter the next plane? Chu Qianxi looked at the points he had earned and happily clicked the confirm button, but was pulled away by a force. Chapter 7. Next plane. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This time Chu Qianxi woke up in a magnificent room. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw the woman standing by the bed, dressed like a palace maid, looking at her with a worried expression on her face. Before Chu Qianxi could speak, the information was transmitted to her through the system. Nangong Yuni, the second princess of Nanfu, is the daughter of the current empress and has been favored by the emperor since childhood. She has a straightforward and sharp personality. 2 days ago, she fell off the horse she was riding while hunting and fainted. The target of this strategy is Lin Yaohan, whose parents are both gravediggers and have learned a lot of knowledge about gravediggers since childhood. But in the dynasty where Nanfu was not favored as a female grave worker, the host needed to approach and help her to unleash her talents and better assist the Nanfu Dali temple in solving the case. After understanding the task and receiving the memory of Nangong Uni, Chu Qianxi began the strategy. Nangong Uni was supported by Empress Mulioli when she sat up and heard her say, "Is there anything else that makes ear uncomfortable?" Looking at the worried person in front of her, Nangong Uni spoke to her and said, "Earnyang has made you worried. Uni will be more careful in the future." Mulioli nodded at her and said solemnly to Lang Yu, who was kneeling behind her, "If you were to protect the princess, you wouldn't be able to do it well. You'd better go back to the military camp and practice again. Don't come to my place to do anything in the future." Watching Cold Moon Nangong Yun, who felt guilty for not protecting her, carefully recall her memories in her mind. After hearing this, Lang Yu knelt on the ground and arched her hand, saying, "Yes." She stood up and prepared to leave. Looking at her powerless figure, Yuni spoke up and said, "Lang Yu, wait a moment." After she finished speaking, she reached out and took Mulioli's hand, saying, "Earnyang, let's give Lang Yu another chance." When the accident happened this time, Lang Yu was called away by me in advance to get something. She wasn't at the place where the incident occurred, and isn't there anything wrong with me? I really like Lang Yu, and I might not get used to it if I were someone else. Is that okay, Earnyang? Looking at her daughter Mulioli, who never pleads for others, she thought for a moment and said to Lang Yu, "This time, for the sake of the princess pleading for you, we have spared your fault. If this happens again, it won't be as simple as going to the military camp." Lang Yu looked at Nangong Uni in confusion and arched her hand to Mulioli, saying, "It's the Empress." Lang Yu must have lived up to the princess's trust. After Mulioli exchanged a few pleasantries and left, Lang Yu spoke to Nangong Uni, "Why did the princess help Lang Yu speak?" It was indeed because Lang Yu had something to do that day, but it was because of personal matters. Is there any other purpose for the princess to do this? Cold Moon was ordered by the Empress to protect her because of her strong strength, but she knew that Nangong Uni was in the palace and no one dared to bully her. It was because of her occasional beating and scolding of servants that Cold Moon did not truly take Nangong Uni to heart to protect her, and sometimes she even disliked her not treating her servants as a matter. But today she suddenly pleaded for her love, and Lang Yu couldn't understand her purpose for a moment. At this moment, Nangong Uni got off the bed and put on her shoes, coming to her side and saying, "Lang Yu, I know you were asked by my mother to come and protect me, but in fact, you are still working for your master. In your heart, I am spoiled and arrogant. Only I bully others and others dare not touch me, so you haven't really cared about my safety, have you? Now these are not important anymore. I want to tell you that since you have been ordered to protect me, you must fulfill your responsibilities. As for who you do things for and what you do, as long as it does not involve me or protecting me, I have no right to interfere with anything else on the surface." Nangong Uni was saying this to her, but in her heart, she was actually thinking, "I would be foolish if I missed you, someone with such high martial arts skills." Cold Moon looked at her incredulously and said, "The princess already knew about me, but didn't she expose me? If something happens now, she has a chance to get rid of me and is willing to let me stay." Nangong Uni frowned and said to her, "If I'm not mistaken, what Yin Yang said about returning to the military camp is to send you to the border to face the enemy on the front line. Although I may be a bit presumptuous, it's a pity to go to the border with your ability to die." After listening to her sincere words, Lang Yu half knelt and clenched her fist, saying to her, "It was because Lang Yu was impulsive before. The princess has such a broad mind. Lang Yu has been taught today, and thank you very much for her magnanimity. Lang Yu will definitely live up to her trust in the future." Nangong Yini's heart was filled with joy, but her face was filled with satisfaction. She patted her shoulder with her hand and said, I'm glad you're willing to accept me. I'll treat you well in the future." Nangong Yini asked her to go back and adjust before returning, while she took several palace maids to familiarize herself with the environment and people related to her original body. Chapter 8. Find Lin Yaohan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days later, Nangong Uni told Mulioli to go out and play. After obtaining permission, he and Leng Yu changed into simple clothes and left the palace. She asked the groom to take them to Nanjiao Township, where Lin Yaohan was located. Unlike the bustling city she had just passed by, this place was quiet and sparsely populated. Looking at the big wooden plaque in front of him, Nangong Yuni said to Lin Yue, "From now on, don't call me princess. We are just cousins who come here to find relatives. No matter what happens, we can't reveal our identity and your martial arts. Everything is my arrangement." Although curious, Leng Yu replied without asking the reason, "Yes, Sister Yuni." The two of them stepped into Nanjiao Township, and as they walked, they could see 2 or 3 people intermittently. At this moment, Yuni saw a couple about to leave the field. She walked up and asked, "The 2 fellow villagers are residents here?" The woman looked at the 2 clear and beautiful girls in front of her and politely replied, "Yes, we were born and raised here." "What are the 2 little girls doing here?" Yuni smiled politely and replied, "Ah. We're here to search for relatives. Does the lady know that there is a girl named Lin Yaohan here?" The woman frowned when she heard her name and said to the 2 of them, "You're looking for her. She's from our village. But recently, I heard that she had an accident during an autopsy and was detained in the town government office. I don't even know if she's still successful. When I asked her not to work as a graveyard worker like her parents, I just didn't listen and insisted on doing this unlucky job. Now, I'm good and I'm getting married. You guys should go back. Look at her like this, your trip is in vain." After listening to the woman's words and thanking her, Yun rushed to the town with Cold Moon. She thought to herself, if this woman's words are right, Lin Yaohan should have encountered a tough argument by now. Fortunately, she didn't come late, otherwise Lin Yaohan might not have survived tomorrow. She and Leng Yue arrived outside the town in a carriage and asked the groom to leave to find a place to rest, while the 2 of them walked towards the county government office on foot. Just as I asked 2 passers-by for the direction of the county government office, I saw a few people in front cursing at an old man. Yuni stopped and looked towards that direction. I saw those people saying to the old man, "Well, you old man has already given you a 5-day grace period, and you can't even pay for the street vendor fee. I don't think you want to get lost in this area." The old man said to them with a worried expression, "Master, it's not that I didn't give her money. It's because my spouse has been sick lately and I've spent all the money on her medicine. I really can't get the money out of it. In the past, she and I could barely give you the money we earned that day when we set up a stall together, but now I don't have much money to buy medicine for her alone. Please be kind and extend the time." The leader among the people asking for money, Mao Zi, flipped over the old man's stall and said, "I don't care if your spouse gets sick. I have already given you a 5-day grace period. Since you can't pay, I can only handle it as a matter of business and smash it for me. Don't let him set up a stall here in the future." The old man was heartbroken as he tried to stop Mao Zi and others, begging for mercy pitifully. However, in the face of the strong power of a few people, the old man's strength was minimal, and in the end, the stall was in a mess. After Mao and the others scolded the old man a few more words, Yuni took Cold Moon and went forward. He looked at the old man sitting on the ground with a helpless and powerless face, and Yuni went up to pick up a basket on the ground and said to the old man, "How much does this cost?" The old man looked at Yuni sadly and said, "If you want it, girl, take it away." "I won't sell it, old man." Yuni looked at the sad old man and gestured to Leng Yu to help him up, saying, "I really like your basket. I want to buy it all, including what you have at home, and the price of each one is twice what it is now. Do you want to do this business, uncle?" After listening to Yun Yi's words, the old man immediately looked at her and said, "If you want to do something, you are really my life-saving benefactor. I thank you on behalf of my wife. Seeing that you are also a girl from an ordinary family, why do you need so many baskets?" Yuni politely waved his hand and said, No, it's just that someone I know happened to take it." "Uncle, what were those people doing just now?" Why did they take the money from the vendor? The old man heard Yun Yitameo and the others angrily say, "Humph, those people are the dog legs of the Zhang family. We used to have a lot of flowers here, but since the unscrupulous household surnamed Zhang came to our town, he has caused a mess." He saw that this place was far away from the county and colluded with Qin Jie from the government office to suppress the people here. From then on, the people here had no good life, and it was not uncommon for them to engage in domestic violence. Whenever there were officials from the county who came, they would pull them to the government office and bribe them, and then send them away. "Ant doesn't seem like people from here. It's better to leave here as soon as possible." Chapter 9. Finding the Yamen. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Nangong Yuni listened to the old man's advice and said to him, "Uncle, I will leave here when I finish my work. You can take some silver here and use it as a deposit for me to buy a basket. In a few days, I will have someone come to pick up the basket. You should stay at home and take good care of your aunt while taking a rest." The old man took the wallet handed over by Yun Yi and said thankfully, "Little girl, thank you so much. My son and daughter have both left us. It's a great honor to meet you today." Nangong Yuni looked at the old man's repeated gratitude and said awkwardly, No, I just did what I could. Uncle, if I have something else to do today, I'll leave first. See you next time." Saying goodbye to the old man, Nangong Yuni and Leng Yue rushed towards the county government again. The two of them were walking on Cold Moon and said to her, "I didn't expect Nanjiao town to be so chaotic here. The corrupt officials have become a mess, and it's just that the people here are suffering." Nangong Yuni sighed and followed, "If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that the official government would have done such a thing of mutual protection. It seems that the official of Dali Temple is one who has strict laws but lacks practical implementation." Leng Yu was exclaiming at the security issues in Nanjiao Township when she heard her talk about Dali Temple. She felt a jolt in her heart as she pretended not to care and continued, "Nanjiao Township is indeed a dereliction of duty as an official, and it is also because Qin Jie and those scumbags are playing demons here that the lack of security is caused. Do you know now that the situation here will help the people return to their original lives?" Nangong Yuni looked at her and answered with an uncertain tone, "I will do my best." Upon hearing her answer, Leng Yue felt warm in her heart. She spoke firmly to Nangong Yuni and said, "I will also help you." Nangong Yuni looked at her resolute expression and thought, "It's not so easy to change the current situation here with our own strength. It seems that this time it's not as easy as imagined." After walking for less than half an hour, they arrived at the entrance of the Yamen. Looking at the solemn and sacred Yamen in front of them, they only felt that the people inside were really insulting this place. Yun Yi and Leng Yue were playing the drums of justice on both sides of the Yamen, not sure if they were not playing loudly enough or if there was no one in the Yamen, and no one came out for a long time. At this moment, several women on the road said to the two of them, "The two girls are not from here, are they? It's useless for you to knock on this here. They won't care about our affairs. When they bring people out, they will also give you a crime of beating drums recklessly. If you have any grievances, just hold them back. If you are targeted by them, there will be no good fruit to eat." After hearing this, Nangong Yuni said to the women, "Are they all guilty of disorderly charges like this? Aren't they afraid of being known by those above?" The women shook their heads helplessly and said to her, "If we were afraid, would it still be like this? It's only because this place is too far from the county, and the people here don't allow them to leave. Otherwise, they will chase us back halfway and be killed. Not to mention asking them to avenge us, even their kindness towards us is rare." A few women finished speaking and left, leaving the two of them angry at their actions in place. Nangong Yuni said to Leng Yu, "I thought coming here was just to rescue Lin Yaohan. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing again. It seems that your martial arts skills don't need to be hidden here. You don't need to worry about my safety later. Just bring out the people from the prison and I will protect myself." Cold Moon looked at Nangong Yuni, who was not as delicate as other princesses, and inexplicably followed her, igniting a fiery sense of justice. Chapter 10. Prison Break. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The two of them looked at the empty Yamen and walked straight in. According to the layout of Yamen throughout history, the prison was generally located on the west side of the Yamen, which was on the left side. Cold Moon was in front of Yunyi, and the two of them walked inside. The more they walked, the more careful they became. If we had followed what the women had just said, the Yamen would have been overcrowding the people, and there would have been guards in the prison. Sure enough, the two of them walked to a corner and heard someone inside talking. Would you like to go home or have another drink after the shift change later? Of course we'll go have 2 more drinks. What's good about going home? That old lady will only be annoying and crying. At the corner, Yunyi and Lin Yue listened for a while and confirmed that there were only 2 people inside. Yunyi gestured to her, kill 1 person and keep 1. After understanding, Lin Yu took out a dagger from her boots and held it in her hand. After a while, when the sound inside stopped, Yunyi heard Lin Yu cough before entering. Watching a person lying on the ground, Lin Yu, holding someone hostage with a dagger, Nangong Yunyi gave Lin Yu a thumbs up and praised her. She then walked forward and looked at the guard with a cold gaze, saying, "Where are the female grave workers who were locked up here a few days ago?" Watching his brother who was just joking with him fall to the ground with his neck wiped, he swallowed his saliva and answered Nangong Yunyi in fear, "That grave worker is in the 3rd cell behind me. 2 female heroes spare their lives, He was killed by Cold Moon before he could finish speaking. Nangong Yunyi went forward to search for his clothes, took out a string of keys, and then went to the back. After she opened the door of Lin Yaohan's cell, she gave the key to Lin Yu to signal her to open all other cells and release the person. Lin Yu took the key and said to her, "Be careful," and then went to open other prison doors. Nangong Yunyi walked into the cell where Lin Yaohan was located, which was dim and without light. She used the light outside the cell to vaguely see a girl lying on a grass bed inside. When she approached, she only saw the girl's overall figure. Due to lighting issues, she couldn't see her face and body clearly. She called Lin Yaohan a few times, but she didn't agree. Upon reflection, she may have fainted. Nangong Yunyi immediately moved her feet to the bedside and lowered her arms from the back of her neck to her chest, lifting her on her back and walking out of the cell. At this moment, Lin Yu also opened all the doors in the prison cell and saw her carrying a girl on her back. Lin Yu quickly went forward and carried the person on her back, saying to her, "Let's leave here first. When the new guard arrives, it will be too late." Nangong Yunyi watched as the people who were released were all running outside, so she picked up the candles on the table and ran to several cells to light the grass beds one by one. In the end, she threw the candles onto the bed in the last cell and ran out of the prison. As it was getting dark after leaving prison, she saw Lin Yu waiting behind a pillar on the right with someone on her back, swaying her body and gesturing for her to follow. She approached and said to Lin Yu, "We made a big, worthwhile trip today. Let's first meet up with the groom and discuss the next steps." Cold Moon said hello and followed her to run outside the town. As it was getting dark and there weren't many people on the road, Nangong Yunyi and Lin Yue didn't cover up much and only focused on running with people. After meeting with the groom, Nangong Yunyi and Lin Yue lifted Lin Yaohan onto the carriage and sat together. Lin Yue gave the groom an address and a few people took the carriage out of town.